Hello everybody and welcome to the 2025 Shut Up and Sit Down board game gift guide. The perfect place to sort a sweet present for that board game fan in your life. This list contains a whole bunch of games to get to your loved ones that should hopefully all meet in the intersection between great, accessible, and most importantly of all, in stock. If there's anything that you were expecting to see on this list that isn't here, then it's probably in a previous gift guide video, which are all lovingly linked in the description for your viewing pleasure, or maybe it might be getting a full video review a little later down the line because it's not in stock right now. Savvy fans of Shut Up and Sit Down will probably guess what those games actually are, honestly. And if you get the three that I'm thinking of exactly right, then I'll tell you as such, and only then can you receive this exclusive Christmas smile. You better have earned that, and if you watched it without earning it, then I'm going to be so mad, and that's just not very Christmassy. Firmly in the category of I can't believe we didn't recommend this sooner, have you considered sending your loved ones on a quest for El Dorado? This is an Indiana Jones-style adventure story that hides a pretty compelling deck builder and racing game inside. You're going to be using a little deck of cards to traverse the different spaces on this hex-based board, with different cards letting you traverse different terrain types, and whichever player gets to the titular El Dorado first is going to be crowned the winner. But in between playing those cards to move around, you'll buy new cards to help you out in those difficult spots. Like this income-generating photographer, or trusty sea captain, or just a really big knife. Both timing these strategic acquisitions and thinning out your deck so that they arrive at precisely the right moment is the juicy core of the puzzle here. But it's a puzzle that's quite easily thwarted by a savvy player just getting in your way. This one is super simple to teach and unbelievably quick and snappy to play through. Plus, if you want more of a challenge, you can use these flippable, swappable, modular boards to create all kinds of weird new layouts that present all kinds of irritating challenges. Plus, if your gift recipient gets really into this game, then there's expansions to bag for it as well. Oh, goodness. I just think that El Dorado is the definition of an evergreen gift. You cannot go wrong with this one. Sticking with both the themes of going fast and eternal recommendations, then if someone who you know who loves board games does not own at least one of Flamme Rouge or Heat Pedal to the Metal, then you know what to do. Now, we recommended Heat Pedal to the Metal in a previous guide, but Flamme Rouge absolutely deserves a look in here too, especially considering it has an absolutely fabulous new expansion. More on that in just a second. These games are both races, but one of them uses cars and the other legs. And bikes, I suppose, as well. They're both speedy to teach and fittingly speedy to play as well, mixing these tactical considerations of managing the hand you're dealt with the strategic overlook of planning your route through a tricky course. We've got full reviews for both of these already on the channel. Check out those if you need more big brain thoughts, but they're both very safe recommendations for most anyone, and exceptional picks for people who are into bikes or cars or cards. They're also both mega expandable. Heat has new courses and new cards and new systems, whereas Flamme Rouge has maybe my favorite expansion of all of 2025. The Grand Tour. This turns Flamme Rouge into a campaign game, a real Tour de France, where players total up the points that they earn over the course of every single game in their campaign to ultimately determine a victor, with bonus points going to special sections of each stage, like tricky climbs or speedy sprints. But the kicker here is that this expansion simulates sleepiness. All that exhaustion that your cyclists would usually shed as the game gets packed away now lingers in between games, meaning that your bold breakaway might cost you dearly in the tough mountain climb that is soon to come up. It's just really, really good. This tiny gift guide segment cannot do justice to quite how smart this expansion is. It's brilliant stuff. Alright, that's enough of the speedy games about going fast. Let's take a detour into cozy and crunchy country. This game, Sanctuary, is a warm mug between the hands. It's a satisfied smile. It's a comfortable silence. Sanctuary is a spin-off game from Ark Nova, taking the crunchy and calculating core of animal management and compressing it into a simpler format, whilst also adding a new dimension of spatial planning that's similar to games like Calico or Cascadia or Acropolis. Now to me, this is a marriage of mechanics that makes for a tremendously pleasing time. You've got a satisfyingly firm batter made up of action economy and synergies, combined with a decadent icing of, ooh, yeah, just right. Do you know what I mean? Maybe you do. I'm not sure that I know myself. What I'm trying to say is that those less inclined to worry about if they have sufficient funds for a particularly extravagant elephant might find a home in this game rather than the big box Ark Nova experience. It's got big game decisions cut with small game feel. If you want to hear more about this one before throwing it at your sibling or your aunt, then myself and Matt did a whole segment on the podcast about it, which you can find somewhere here. Things in Rings is a squat box about Venn diagrams, and no, don't go, it's more exciting than I've made that sound. The default mode for this one is competitive, but we prefer the cooperative variant that's included in the box, in which players take it in turns to place things from their hand into the rings on the table, this stringy Venn diagram that I've quite poorly laid out here. If they place a thing into the wrong spot, then they will draw a card to replace it. And if they put it in the right spot, then they won't draw a replacement. And only by everyone shedding out their entire hand do you collectively win the game. However, only one player knows what the actual categories for each of these rings actually are, and they may not say anything to the rest of the table. They must communicate these categories by using cards from their hand and by moving things that players have placed into the correct spot. The experience of playing this game sits on that perfect line between immense frustration and palpable satisfaction, as your silent ringleader decides to put hairbrush next to shark, and you start to reconsider everything you thought you knew. What on earth do hospital and iguana have in common? Why is broom next to roller coaster? Help me, I'm losing my mind. Now, if all of that talking and strategizing and thinking seems a little bit too complicated for that post-potato, post-gravy self, then maybe you might enjoy just throwing some dice into a bin. I literally deployed Strike just a couple days ago in this exact same context. It is quite tremendously daft, but people find it weirdly compelling. You start with a little handful of dice, and then on your turn, you will throw one of them into the arena, maybe following it with a second, or third, or fourth. Because your goal is to try and get doubles or triples or quadruples showing on these dice in the arena. When that happens, you take them out and add them to your stock, which is important because if you run out of dice, then you lose. It's a last person standing type game. The one and only twist here is that if, by claiming your double or triple or quadruple, you empty out the arena of dice entirely, then the next player has to chuck their entire handful of dice at once. There's so many moments to love here, like a player with a meager hand of 3 hoping that it'll return them doubles so they can stay in the running, or a player being forced to roll their one and only dice with no hope of staying in. As well as this, these X faces on the dice will mean that they are removed from the pool, meaning that it's constantly shrinking and forcing players into rash decisions to try and get their friends to throw all their dice into the pit. There's always 1 or 2 players that insist there's some kind of knack to throwing these dice in just the right way to tip dice onto the correct face, but inevitably they end up completely screwing themselves over, or better yet, throwing a dice and having it completely bounce out of the arena. I was meant to throw it out the arena, but I got it in because I'm a professional. I love Strike. It is so daft, and yet somehow manages to get a whole table of people oohing and eyeing over the results like they're watching a much anticipated sports fixture. It is worth every penny. Agent Avenue has just 2 players chasing each other around a park, a retro flavor American suburb, and you're also animals, inexplicably quite flirtatious animals. Look, I don't know what's really going on with the theme here, but the game underneath slaps my whole bod. Each turn has one of our two players playing one card face up and one card face down, with their opponent choosing which they would like to keep. And each card moves either player a certain number of spaces towards their opponent, or, if they're unlucky, backwards a few spaces. And the first person to catch the other will be the winner of the game. But there's a few little twists. Each of these cards has a different value for when it's picked first, second, or third, meaning you're constantly keeping an eye on the array that your opponent is collecting and attempting to sneak valuable cards under their defenses. And also, some of these cards will flat out win or lose you the game in their entirety if you collect enough of them, which allows you to force some real rock and a hard place type deals. I love those little cul-de-sacs that you can push each other into, and all of these ample opportunities for bluffing, or double bluffing, or triple bluffing your opponent. It's so immediate and simple and fun and quick that it just begs for repeat play after repeat play as you slowly start to master these systems and get all up in each other's grey matter. And further rewarding those repeat plays are an optional black market module that creates special spaces for you to go visit in order to get funky little power cards, as well as an expansion for Agent Avenue Division M, which adds mice. These mice are really annoying, they get in the way and they cause you problems, as mice indeed should. And all of this expansion or optional or modular stuff works with the 4-player variant that is included in the box, which makes this game a little more flexible than that 2-player tag might suggest. This is a perfect little stocking stuffer. Now, speaking of stocking stuffers, High Tide has a form factor that is deeply covetable. Watch its box ease open like a chest of buried treasure, unveiling its bounty of coarse cloth bag and chunky pastel tiles. This game has basically 4 components if you include the box, 5 if you include the manual, and all of them absolutely deserve the job. High Tide is a 2-player abstract game in which players will jostle for control of this tiny stretch of beach, hoisting tiles of their colour onto ever-increasing teetering totems of sand and shell. At the end of the game, you will look directly down at this composition that you have created, and whichever player has the most tiles of their colour visible from the top will be the winner. But these tiles can only be moved if they are accessible from 2 sides and if they are moving upwards, which immediately creates some frustrating geometry to navigate around. Throw in these neutral sandy pieces that can be moved by either player and you've got yourselves a svelte and speedy hit of game. One that never feels dizzyingly open, nor does it feel claustrophobically closed at any given time. And an individual game takes just a couple of minutes to play, meaning that this is a box that begs to be reset and started again, keeping score of your best ofs with these little sparkling score counters. High Tide is shockingly simple to play, but there's little flecks of depth exactly where you need it. Like the fact that you have to move a tile on your turn, meaning that you start to view other players' turns not as obstacles, but opportunities, especially as you only move the top tile of a stack, revealing what lies dormant underneath. But mostly, I think that High Tide finds a spot in our gift guide, not for any individual element alone, but just how considered and intentional and beautiful a box it is. This is a game that knows exactly what it wants to be, and it succeeds at that goal at every single turn. This is a great little gift in a great little box. But what if you're looking for something that's more of the biffing persuasion? Well, Tag Team has received its roses from a whole bunch of different board game outlets, and for good reason. It's an absolute blast. Leaning on the design language of both auto battlers and fighting games, Tag Team lets each player pick a pairing from this whole roster of possible combatants. I've gone for Bear Boy and Blob Guy, and my opponent has gone for My Chemical Romance and Joan of Arc. You take the starting cards of the 2 fighters that you picked and then reveal them simultaneously, one at a time, applying effects to each other, reducing each other's health, hopefully to 0. Now that first round is over in just a couple of cards, but after every one of these micro bouts, you have a little shopping phase. You'll draw 3 fresh cards and choose one of them to slip somewhere into your fighting deck, stringing together a series of attacks and blocks and special abilities. But here is the white-hot rub at the core of Tag Team. These cards will not be rearranged. You're adding a new card in, but not changing the relative order of everything that still existed in your deck beforehand. And because this is done simultaneously, you'll need to remember roughly where your opponent's cards are and in what order they came out in, so that you can time your cards to better beat theirs. It feels so unbelievably good when you perfectly manage to block one of your opponent's attacks, and it feels even better when you follow it up with a shattering blow when one of their own blocks stumbles out their deck at exactly the wrong time. It's not all just punches and kicks though, because every single one of the fighters that is included in Tag Team has their own set of unique cards and special abilities, like Shango, for example, who delights in piling up these fire tokens on one particular enemy. If they're over full, they just explode, and you win immediately. Or the aforementioned Bear Boy, who slowly builds up a rage gauge and becomes an absolute monster in the second half of the battle. Get out the way now, he's become a bear. There's the Wild Bunch, which is just 5 people, so they take absolutely ages to defeat. There's the Queen of the Boats lady, who has boats, and she gets to shoot people with boats. And there's this Kung Fu Master type guy, who gets to remove cards from your opponent's deck. It's so mean. It's so mean. You know, this might be the textbook sibling game. It's in your face and fighty, but never prolonged or mean in any way. Oh, no fair. You can do that? Let's have a rematch. Let's go again. If you know someone who does not have a copy of Wizard already, then you should change that. Somehow fundamentally unaltered from its original 1984 edition, Wizard's artwork has the tone of a sort of hallucinatory straight-to-DVD CGI. What's going on here? Who thinks this is good? I do, okay? I think Wizard's artwork is the kind of beautiful terrible that board games need more of. This stuff is golden. It's a continual source of surprise and delight. I love that the humans just look pretty normal, and the dwarves are just regular bits of art, but positioned lower in the frame. Actually, a bunch of these cards have artwork that looks like it's physically falling off of them, like the game is sloughing off its own artwork because it's quietly shunning it. I love it. I can't get enough. I could talk about this game's artwork for hours. But no, I have to do the boring job of telling you that this game, in spite of its frankly ridiculous presentation, is as rock solid as it is ubiquitous in this hobby. Wizard is probably the simplest example of the trick-taker-butt genre that has existed for ages but has spiked in popularity in recent years, and this one might be the perfect onboarding. You'll play a card, and everyone follows suit with a particular colour deemed a trump at the start of the round. But in addition to the standard numbered cards, there are a couple of spicy options. Wizards that will win any trick that they are played into, and jesters that will lose every trick that they are played into. But how are you going to get points? Well, before any tricks are played, each player will bid on how many they think they are going to win. And if you make your bid, you get a flat stash of points and additional points for every single trick that you won. But if you don't make your bid, you lose points for every trick you won under or over. But what's absolutely fascinating here is that you'll play a total of 10 rounds of Wizard, starting with a meager hand of just 1 card and building up to a meaty stack of 10. And this just gives the game an absolutely wonderful arc, with the first few rounds giving greedy players a sharp slap on the wrist for bidding too brashly, the middle hands showing the spiky power of the wizards and the subtle feints of the jesters, and then the final hands sprawl outwards for a while, giving players a sense of control and agency. Oh, it's just lovely. It's just lovely. Like I said at the start, everyone should own a copy of this one. It's a simple joy to play a few hands of Wizard in a dingy pub. Creators of the Lord of the Rings trick-taking game, I can only apologise. We were a little dismissive of this game when we played it earlier in the year at PAX East. On our podcast, we called it too gentle, too easygoing, too middle of the road, and goodness, if I wasn't just so wrong. Not least because we played it with a whole rule wrong. Fools! Please, have mercy. Let me rectify my mistake with this glowing gift guide recommendation and perhaps a tease for a future video later down the line. The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game is an absolutely preposterous title, but an absolutely wicked bit of game. This is a cooperative trick-taker made up of a whole bunch of different scenarios to play through, and each character will inhabit a different member of the Fellowship as they pot around Middle-earth doing their business. Each of the characters has a different goal, and each scenario throws in a whole bunch of irritating roadblocks to deal with. But the end result is a deeply pleasing set of trick-taking challenges that carry an absolutely wild amount of character and charm, considering they're all using the same basic set of pretty featureless cards. This feels like a design flex, pushing the basic framework of a trick-taker in every conceivable direction, allowing certain characters and goals to become near infamous as they rotate in and out of ever knottier scenarios. BTP? Really? Again? You are absolutely useless. Now here is the hot take. I think that this box might even be better than genre staple The Crew, which feels truly sacrilegious to say, but if you know someone who loves The Crew, if they love trick takers, if they love Lord of the Rings, they'll probably get a kick out of this game. And even if they don't love Lord of the Rings, they'll probably enjoy it. I only just watched the first movie, like literally 4 days ago for the first time, and I thought it was pretty damn good. I don't know if you know about these movies, but they're fun. But I was pretty in love with the game even before then. It's just such a confident and complete bit of design, and it would make a great gift. Be warned, this final section of games in this video is for the real trick-taking sickos. This genre has seen an absolutely huge boom over the last few years, and I consider myself quite the fan. But these games, I might be a little bit scared of them. This is a selection of titles from New Mill Industries, a publisher that deals almost exclusively in frighteningly niche card games. If you know someone who really likes card games, then these boxes contain the potential to absolutely delight them. Let's break them down from most straightforward to most alarming. Gachapon Trick is a trick taker where the cards you're using to win tricks are also cards that you want to buy from the trick using your pocket money. Ultimately, your goal is to collect nice, clean sets of cards, collections of the toys from the Gachapon machines, and in a lovely nod to the theme, you can blind pull these cards from the top of the deck, hoping that you get something useful. But players might spot exactly what you're collecting and rush to deny you. Somnia is a trick taker where both winning and losing the entire hand are valid objectives, but placing in the middle of the pack will cost you one of the 3 lives that keeps you in the game. There's also a nightmare suit hovering around, which is essentially a trump suit that only gets established when someone can't follow, and then that suit costs everyone negative points if they win. It's such a wonderful subversion of the blessing that being short-suited normally represents in these kinds of games. Oh, you're out of suit. That means you can play your trumps. And the monkey's paw begins to curl. Honestly, Somnia might be my favourite of this selection for this mechanic alone, especially because you can visibly see the fear struck across your opponent's faces when their once stocked hand suddenly becomes a huge liability. Descending further into what I will affectionately call trick-taking hell, we have 7 Prophecies. This is a trick-taking game where the lead suit of each trick is laid out on the table before the bidding even starts. Oh, that sounds easy, you might say. I've got a couple of strong red cards and a couple of strong orange cards. How about I bid 3? No, says a disembodied voice from among the clouds. You will not bid a simple number of tricks. No. You are going to bid precisely how many times you're going to come first, second, third, and fourth. It's such a funny teach because that first step is met with a kind of quiet curiosity, and the second, where you reveal the true nature of the game, just has everyone completely baffled as to how you're meant to achieve this unbelievable act of psychic prowess. How indeed? I'm so bad at this game. But actually pulling it off feels like a dream. Nailing all your predictions one after another and squeezing points out the round? Well, I'd imagine that it feels really quite good. I never got to do it, but my friends did, and they said it felt great. Okay, now we are on to the final two, and they are the weirdest of the bunch. Lepidoptery is not a trick-taking game, but instead a shedding game, like a Scout or a Tichu. Ah, nice. That's familiar territory, yeah? It's got Connect 4 in it. Shedding out of certain hand types lets you seed little lozenges on this grid between the players, and both shedding out of cards and linking 4 in a row will bag you the win. But increasingly, that Connect 4 board gets all congested and bunged up, forbidding certain hand types from even being played in the first place, turning your lovely hand packed with 3 of a kinds into a barren wasteland of unplayable nonsense. And last, but by no means least, we have Agency, the one that completely flattened my brain and I am now quietly in love with. This is a trick taker where your hand is not a hand, it's half of 2 hands that are positioned between players. So you can see what's in your hand and what's in half of your opponent's hands at the same time. What you can't see any of is the hand of your teammate, because yes, this is a partnership team game, and they're sat opposite the table across from you. And together, you and your teammate are going to try your best to fish point-scoring cards out of tricks. Tricks that are being played in the standard 4 suits. Moustache, hat, briefcase, and van. And vans are trump. There's also wall. The way you define whose hand is whose is by using these wall cards, but they're also eligible to be played into any trick at any time, widening your hand outwards, first to include these no man's land cards in the center, and then eventually trickling into the hand of your opponent, but letting them touch your cards too? There's just something really, really funny about playing all of your best cards and then brazenly knocking down your walls like the Kool-Aid man, helping yourself to all your opponent's best cards as they try and play them as fast as possible. Like you're eating the buffet from one end and they're trying to serve it from the other. And what's more, the walls have no trick-taking power whatsoever, but they are worth points. So your greed will come at a cost unless your teammate psychically connects to you and manages to win the trick with the wall in it, securing your cake and eating it whole. These games are delightful twists on trick-taking that are surely to please a fan of card games in your life, and this is just a small selection that the publisher recommended to me. There is an absolute deluge of weirdo trick-takers on this website that your friends who like cards will gobble up. And for some final recommendations, I've got a few word-based things that you could get for your board game loving loved ones. I've suggested these first 2 in previous years, but I'm going to give them another shout out because I think they're both really, really good suggestions, if I do say so myself. And first up is Tim Clare's book, The Game Changers. Let me tell you, this book is a love letter. It's infectious, says Ivan from The Traitors. Rich with enticing origin stories, The Game Changers has a phenomenally broad scope. Exceptional, says me from Shut Up and Sit Down. This is both a love letter to and a jaunty history through table games as a whole, and it is an absolute delight to read. You'll learn a whole bunch of stuff about board games and you'll have a wonderful time doing so. A real hoot, a real chuckle. It's written in this wonderful style. It is well worth picking up if you like board games. Or even if you don't, maybe it'll persuade you that you do. And I will always step up to bat for SENET magazine, an absolutely wonderful little treasure trove of insights about board games that will be delivered straight to your doorstep a few times a year. It's got reviews, interviews, special features, all kinds of other little treasures in there. And it's all presented in this very loving and playful format. They're just gorgeous things to thumb through. I am a huge fan of SENET, and if you think someone else might be, then there are now these little gift bundles that you can get them too, which can come with a very stylish t-shirt, a functional and chunky tote bag that fits so many games, and this gorgeous little twinkly pin of their mascot. Ooh! I like that it's got 2 fasteners on the back, because it shows that it was designed by somebody who has lost a pin or 2 in their time. I'm just a big fan of SENET, which you can probably tell by this vast stack of copies of their magazine that I have. These are just the copies that I have received as a subscriber to SENET. That's how much I like it, and maybe someone in your life will like it that much too. And finally, I have another quite strange recommendation. Last year for Christmas, I received some crossword books, and I really, really enjoyed them. I got well into the hobby of doing crosswords, especially cryptic crosswords, which I found really fascinating and intriguing and difficult. They're really, really hard. There's a whole bunch of different crossword books that you can very easily get your hand on and would make very good gifts, but the trouble is, a lot of the good ones are from UK newspapers that are cursed for various reasons. This is the one that was gifted to me, and it's from the Times, and I hate that. So I'm gonna take a punt here and recommend something that I don't actually have a copy of. I've been a big fan of Puzzmo for a while now. They're a web-based puzzle page type situation that has a whole bunch of little brain teasers that are constantly getting updated. You get new ones every day. It's a delightful little thing to do while you're on public transport or taking a challenging dump. What I especially love is that their crossword is a really great way of getting into crosswords. It has a pretty robust hint system. They're quite small and compact and simple. They're pretty breezy and don't rely on too much hyper-specific cultural knowledge that a lot of crosswords do. And so my gift recommendation is twofold. Firstly, if you know someone that likes Puzzmo, or if you know someone who would like it, then you can get them a subscription. I believe it now has an iOS app, which makes it a lot more accessible. It doesn't have Android yet. Please, sort it out. I want my Puzzmo app. But if you want to get them a physical gift that doesn't belong to a right-wing newspaper, then maybe get them the Puzzmo crossword book. I cannot fully vouch for these because they didn't arrive in time for this gift guide video, but they contain a whole bunch of previously run Puzzmo crosswords, which I have really enjoyed doing for the past year or so. So I think this would make a great little gift for someone who you think should get into doing words on a grid. And that is the end of our Christmas gift guide video. I really hope that you found something good within this list of recommendations to give someone this Christmas. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again very soon. Bye.